Well, I got some more Cooters place stuff. I like that one, the Rebel Confederate flag with "Don't Tread on Me." That pretty much explains it. It's called independence, right? And I was watching something by PewDiePie, and the guy was saying, the guy's smart, man. I don't like watching any of his videos, but he was smart about the Wall Street Journal harping on him. And, well, the Wall Street Journal, in this video, he was telling him like they were calling him a racist. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Freaking PewDiePie a racist? I don't watch his videos because I'm not into games, man, but I realize the guy is intelligent. I do realize he's not stupid. I mean, he acts really weird on his he acts stupid on his videos and stuff, but I mean, I'm not into games, that's why I don't really watch any of that stuff. A lot of people are, but he was smart enough to come back at him. And see, what they're doing is they don't want anybody thinking independent. That's what the hell it is. They want to be calling the shots and everything, and that's one reason, like the Wall Street Journal and big media hates YouTube. I'd never get an article on the Wall Street Journal putting this out. You kidding me? I couldn't even get this put out on my freaking local paper where the city councilors went ahead and voted unanimously to put the Confederate flag back up just for historical purposes. I think this flag belongs up not because of historical purposes. I think it belongs up there because this is what the nation was founded upon: self-government, the right to representation in government. Hey, Abe Lincoln he didn't even get one single vote in 10 out of the 11 states that seceded. The right to representative government. Isn't that what the hell we fought for in 1776? And wasn't it the same people that fought in 1776 2 or 3 generations earlier that were fighting for the Confederacy? Abe Lincoln, he actually drafted immigrants. In other words, coerced them into the military as immigrants, which they didn't have jobs anyway, in the Northern Armies. So basically, it was the immigrants being coerced into the freaking Northern Armies, versus the Americans that lived here and built this country, that were mainly in the South, that were tied to the roots of the land. Abe Lincoln also arrested almost the entire Maryland state legislature because they were going to secede from the Union. And if that happened, Washington D.C. would have been surrounded, because Maryland, Virginia, right, surrounds Washington D.C. But why did actually North Carolina and Tennessee and Virginia secede? Because when Abe Lincoln, South Carolina seceded, Abe Lincoln put the blockade on South Carolina. He didn't just do it on South Carolina. He decided to go put the naval blockade, on Virginia and North Carolina, which would affect Tennessee too, because Tennessee is inland from North Carolina. Well, they seceded. They don't tell you that in history books, though. He suspended habeas corpus. But oh no, this flag, they try to make this flag associated with the German Nazis. This flag was flying by some of our troops fighting against the German Nazis and Imperial Japanese. I'll tell you who the Nazi was: Abe Lincoln. And anybody's even a fan of his and does a real history knows that guy was a tyrant. Whether they agree with him or not, they know he's a tyrant. Even J.P. Morgan, back when he was 27 years old, I remarked in another video, 1864, J.P. Morgan, the great financier and banker, which, he was a crook too, but he revealed stuff. He basically, he did state that the war, he was originally for the war and the Union and all that. He says he realized when he goes to Washington, D.C., the whole deal is the revolving door between the politicians and the industrialists and Abe Lincoln and his cabinet. Original war profiteers were going on there. That's the original embryo of the American military-industrial complex. Began with the Northern Army of 1861 to 1865. But oh, hell no. Don't have individual rights. We're not allowed to have that. See, George Mason, who was actually the guy that really wrote the Bill of Rights per se. Not James Madison wrote the Bill of Rights, our third president. But George Mason, really, all the ideas came from George Mason. Same with Thomas Jefferson when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. All those ideas really came from George Mason. George Mason, you don't hear his name today because he was a Virginian who didn't want to get involved in politics. But he was right. He was right about one thing big time. The Bill of Rights, he realized, did not adequately protect. He felt he was a failure because he said the Bill of Rights didn't actually adequately protect Americans' individual God-given rights. And you know what? He's right. Because big corporations like the Wall Street Journal going after PewDiePie die. I mean, PewDiePie die makes a few $1 million or whatever the hell he makes. I think he makes, well, I saw it on Business Insider. I think it was $7.4 million one year, but he probably got chopped down a lot because everybody thinks he got chopped down with ad rates on YouTube here. I think it's $4 million. Like, I'm shit, you know, I ain't making much money. But the thing is, I ain't complaining. I'm doing this to actually be a thorn in the side of the major media. And just remember with this, that's why I kind of like this new version of it. Even though this flag, this would be the Army of Tennessee. You know, they call it AOT, Army of Tennessee. Or, you know, that's another thing. I see these major media clowns freaking talking that this flag only flew over the Army of North Virginia. Oh, bullshit. Bullshit. There was various versions, but I can tell you the South Carolina 8th Regiment, where my family's lineage goes back to, which was in every freaking conflict practically in the war between the states, they flew this flag. You know, Manistee, Cold Harbor, Gettysburg, and you know, also in not only Tennessee but Mississippi flew it, and sometimes it was reverse colors. The Trans Army, whatever the heck it was, Trans Mississippi Army of, I forgot the actual name of it, but it sometimes is reverse colors. But Georgia flew it, Florida flew it. Florida flew this flag. Actually, today's Florida's flag, I know it's somewhat from the Spanish flag. Alabama flew it. Georgia flew it. North and South Carolina flew it. I mean, yeah, South Carolina also flew the freaking palmetto tree, but they flew this flag. All the Confederate states flew this flag. Arkansas flew it. Louisiana flew it. So, you know, you see some snob writing in the major media that this flag only flew in the Army of Northern Virginia. Oh, bullshit. What do you think about if you got a president that's going to freaking raise the taxes in your area 235%? Well, actually higher than that, because that was the cotton went from a tax rate of 20% to 47%. You're already paying 80% of the money that the federal government's going into their coffers. So they got the Panic of 1857, which basically was from the gold rush. It was really an outgrowth of the gold rush of 1848 California, which petered out, which led to a big speculative bubble when they had the gold rush of 1848. By 1857, they had a Panic of 1857. The whole big gold rush petered out, and all the speculation bubble blew up. So the money dried up in Wall Street and also in the North, in the Washington, D.C. Washington was in debt. So their solution was, let's raise taxes on the South. That's the main place we get taxes. Well, you know what? If you look back in World War I, we had, the Income Tax Amendment, 16th Amendment to the Constitution, was passed in 1913, or actually probably not really ratified by all the states, but you're stuck with it. Try to argue that against an overwhelming force. You know, an old Sicilian expression, you know, when you got, you know, force and reason, and the force is greater than the reason, the force wins out. That's how you try to argue with the IRS, right? But, you know, they actually didn't ratify that 16th Amendment. But hey, you know, it comes into being, and it's real low taxes. So when war comes on board, what happens? They raise the upper tier of the tax rate. I think it was 73 or 77. I think it was 73% on both capital gains and ordinary income in World War I. They raised it right through the roof. So government always survives, whether it's an economic depression or a war. They take it from the people. So there was the Panic of 1857. So the main way they were getting money, they didn't have a direct tax on income. They had the tariff on the cotton. So they were going to raise it 235%. So if you're going to take 47% of the money, the revenue, directly from cotton, you're going to freaking bankrupt the South completely. as it was, they were already paying 80% of the freaking money that was coming into coffers of freaking federal government. But hell no, hell no. That's hate speech? Don't tread on me. That's hate speech? Yeah, tell me another one, man. You know what's hate speech? Wall Street Journal. And thank you, PewDiePie, because you're pretty damn intelligent in the way you freaking put out your stuff. I really liked it. But I don't know how to do that shit with the little clips of the videos and put this little freaking blip in here and shit like that. I just talk, you know what I mean? I just get on here. I don't script shit, okay? I don't script shit either. But this is all from Cooter's place, and I know Cooter, Ben Jones, also former congressman from Georgia. He says it's cultural cleansing. That's freaking more than cultural cleansing. It's freaking it's blatantly anti the principles this country was founded upon when they're telling you can't display these items. I'm displaying them. As a matter of fact, later on, after I get my property up in Tennessee, one thing that's coming on this property down here in Florida is going to be 35 foot flag, and I might put this one up first as a test, because nobody knows what the hell that one is. That's actually the first Confederate flag, and this one here is the South Will Rise Again flag. 4x6, and I have a real, and this one's a rebel. No, it's a rebel Gadsden flag. It's I'm gonna probably give this one to my cousin up there in New Jersey. Actually, I'm gonna send him one of these stickers and one of those. He's up in New Jersey, the Yankee state, but he ain't a Yankee. Even though he's Italian 100%, I can tell you one thing: he ain't a Yankee. Italians fought for freedom too, man, and it was like in Italy against the barbarians, man. I'm gonna tell you, another thing too. I'm gonna go on this thing for pretty damn long. You know how I reconcile this with my, you probably think it's crackpot bullshit, but my lineage actually very likely, I know it definitely goes back to Duke Albert Edward, but according to Greg Hallett, Lord Greg Hallett, Duke Albert Edward's father was actually Lionel Nathan Rothschild, his real father. Kind of interesting too that the illegitimate son, who's my great-grandfather of Duke Albert Edward, was born on the same day as Lionel Nathan Rothschild, which is 11/22, November 22nd, 11/22, 33 Mason, right? Which is kind of weird. I don't know, but Lionel Nathan Rothschild may very likely be my third great. He would be my third great grandfather if Lord Greg Hallett's research is correct. But I've always worked with very strong American Jewish businessmen as their accountant, main accountant, and but I've always had this independent streak about me that I tell them shit they don't want to hear, and I get in trouble sometimes. But they always appreciated my honesty. But I'm going to tell you, I reconcile the Confederate cause, the rebel cause, with the Great Jewish Revolt of 66 to 70 AD, because it was over taxes, having your way of life being dictated to you by an outside power, being taxed by a government that doesn't represent your interest, which is what do you think the Great Jewish Revolt of 66 70 AD was about? I mean, it was a secession too, in a way. It wasn't even a revolt, but I respect the Jews for doing that. Definitely. They need to fight back and stay well armed. But later on, I got some down here honoring our veterans of the Confederacy. Don't tread on me on my El Camino. There's my gas tank out, just like Cooter would do. We're going to be cleaning that up. But just like a lot of things, they don't tell the history right at all. And the reason they don't tell the history right at all is because they want you dumbed down and compliant, obedient servants. As a matter of fact, I've been catching a lot of things on the major media where they flash the word obey in there. I've been watching some of this shit. They flash the word obey. And I don't know if I can get that on camera, but maybe I should put a video on it. But they're trying to brainwash people. Now, I say, don't tread on me. This is what ought to be impregnated in people's minds. We're independent people. We got individual rights. And if you're an atheist and you don't believe in God, you can always believe in guns, ordnance, and destructive devices. That's an acronym that God means, right? So anyway, and with Rome, I always wish that Julian the Apostate, which they always call, the Christians call him, actually call him Julio, the greatest hero, who was the emperor back in 363 AD. He was fighting against the Parthians and Persians himself at the head of his armies. He was wounded, mortally wounded, when he didn't have time to grab his armor. And the reconstruction of the Second Temple of Jerusalem was actually underway. There would have been no Rock of the Dome over there. But there's a reason I'm not Jewish today, because I'd be too radical. I wouldn't be wailing at the wall. I'd be storming over the wall using RPGs and blowing up that freaking damn Dome of the Rock. Hi, YouTube. You think that's too politically incorrect? Too bad. Anyway. So, because when I believe in something, I believe in something. And, you know, the people that mainly, you know, you could tell you right now, the people that fought in the South, a lot of people even had inscribed on their weapons 1776. Like in my family, I have three generations earlier than the Confederates that fought in South Carolina. One was a ranger in Captain Wise's Rangers. He was at the Battle of Moultrie. His son enlisted in 1776 at the age of 16. He was at the siege of Charleston, South Carolina, by the British, defending against that. And also one was a captain in General Francis's army, which was known as the Swamp Fox. If it wasn't for South Carolina's efforts, there would have been no successful separation or revolution against the UK. But hey, are these same people, these true Americans, a few generations later, are being branded as not compliant freaking slave serfs by Abe Lincoln. And of course, if you don't want to believe that, look what the policy was right after the war between the states. You know, Tecumseh Sherman, he was out there to wipe out every single Plains Indian there was. And he regretted that he couldn't do it on his deathbed. He was pissed off at the white settlers that were preventing him from freaking killing every last single Native American Plains Indian. But hey, that's the guy that was in the Union Army, and he was fighting to freaking free the slaves. Now tell me another one, man. Tell me another one. Okay, over and out. But this is my stuff from Cooters, and I support vendors, even though this shit's made in China. I think a lot of it is. I don't know if all of it is. Some of it is. I think some of the flags are. But what are you gonna do, man? And this was like $5 for this flag, man. You know what I mean? Nobody knows what the hell it is. It's the first Confederate flag, and you know, I support vendors that are true blue American. It's more than heritage. It's more than cultural. It's way more. If you don't understand, see, the people that hate this stuff, they have no clue what this country was even formed about. They have none. They don't even know what the hell the Bill of Rights is. They don't know anything. They only know is, I want mine. That's what they know. So, to go against this is racist hate speech. To go against this, and that's what the Wall Street Journal, whatever, Wall Street Journal, huh? Water sports. That's probably what the WS stands for, because they're basically pissing all over us with their freaking garbage, freaking rag, and I'm pissing them right back. And PewDiePie, whatever his name is, God, guy's intelligent, man. I can tell you right now. But I'm glad he got attacked, because he's fighting him back, which is kind of funny. He's fighting back the major media. The major media hates YouTube. Even though we bitch sometimes about YouTube won't monetize this and they're freaking censoring this, YouTube is freaking still a major thorn in the side of the major media. Major side. And like I said, you got to see where I'm coming from with this shit. This is, if you look at the word liberal, free thinking, anybody's allowed to do what the hell they want, that's what this damn means. That's what this flag, that's why I like this version with the snake with "Don't Tread on Me." That's exactly what that flag means. Individual rights and a right to self-government. Limited government, very small government. As Thomas Jefferson would say, the government's best, the government's least. So I'm supporting Cooters, man. So I've been long on this, but I told you a lot of shit in here that you probably won't get on other videos. Probably not too many places anyway. And I'm not a videographer, so I don't know how to put this shit together with fancy clips, so I don't really care to anyway. It's merely the information that's more important. But I'll be getting back to putting my float assembly in my 78 El Camino here, which is, I keep this redneck buggy. Anyway, over and out.